Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Tonight we have on Angry Anderson. Angry's got a big single and some things to talk about. How you doing tonight, man?
Yeah, good brother. You?
Doing great. I'm doing great.
You finally got out of lockdown because I've noticed that in Australia there's all these people walking around with fresh haircuts, and it's because they were in lockdown. Yeah, this absurdity, the
I've
lockdown
actually
thing.
been. It hasn't been locked down here. I found I actually just wanted to change, and now I regret getting it cut shorter.
Yeah,
I
no,
was like,
no, I get it. It's
it's
just
pretty
that
funny.
I'm linking it to this local
I
thing, but
know. I know.
there's all these people walking around now,
It happened here.
with
Crazy. Like
fake tans and fresh haircuts and looking, brand new, so to speak. Anyway, talking about brand new,
yeah. Well, you
I
got some.
I'm finally, after 20 years of talking about it. It's a bit like sort of fixing the gate. Yes, dear, I will. I'll fix it. I'll get
Baby
around
steps.
it.
Baby steps.
Yeah, I'm finally launching the AA band, and as the press release says, it doesn't stand for Alcoholics Anonymous. It stands for
Thank you. I was
Angry
going to say that.
Anderson. And yeah, well, preempting. But yeah, it's been a dream of mine for a long time to. We've talked about it a little, to launch my own band, and it's an R&B band, so it's a different kind of music than obviously the Rose Tattoo does, and with the accent on. There's a multiplicity of when I say multiplicity, there's three guitar players. One of them, actually, they're all very, very, very good. Bass and drums. But one of the guitar players, his favorite instrument is keyboards. So we've got two guitar players, a keyboard player, a bass player, and a drummer.
Oh, that makes sense now.
So the stuff that we've talked about, and we will talk about further about the favorite albums. We did talk about that I've always wanted to be in a band. We had a predominantly keyboard player, for the Hammond sound, the piano sound, whatever. Which leads me to the introduction, because we're launching the band here in Australia, and actually Scotty Crawford, who's my manager, our manager, he now tells me that we're going to have a release right around the world, and it's a song called Legalise, and it was written, I think, about 70, late 77, early 78. Loyde was playing in the Tats then as a bass player. We were a four-piece band. And we were sort of, I suppose, experimenting, because being four-piece, going from a classic two-guitar, five-piece, two guitar,
that's quite dimensional
rock and roll band, to Loyde, by way of explanation, was, God rest his soul, an amazing rock player, guitar player, in so much that Lobby is accredited with bringing about or inventing or innovating what become then known for years and years, with the Tats, with AC/DC, with the Angels, with Chisel, with all the great Australian rock bands, the Australian guitar sound. And Robbie Loyde is accredited with having come up with that. So it's a unique combination between certain guitars, Marshall amps, and a propensity for ear-splitting volume. But anyway, having said that,
crunch.
Yeah, really, the crunch. So while Lobby was in the band, back in the day, we were all prolifically smoking marijuana, like most people in the industry were. And he, the cannabis movement, or the marijuana, the decriminalisation movement, got in touch with us through Lobby, because two people that he was very close to were part of that movement. So we're talking, like I said, the late 70s, about 77, 78. And so we went into a studio one time and just had a jam on this little kind of jerky little feel that was kind of like, and I think I think what Pete was aiming for in Pete's quirky, inimitable
Yeah.
style was he was trying to get something that sort of resembled a reggae, but it wasn't a reggae because Bob Marley and the whole reggae movement synonymous with smoking dope,
Right.
and so I think he wanted to like nod towards Marley
Right.
and that music
The movement.
format. Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's not exactly a reggae, but anyway, many years later, that song is laid around for all these years unused, and it's a quirky little thing. So myself and my band, I said to my band, can you come up with a new arrangement and a new musical treatment
So
so we can.
I'm sorry, this wasn't released before. So it was just a song you guys did. The song wasn't released prior.
No, it was never. It was destined for release, but they couldn't get a major release. And of
Okay.
course, back in the late 70s, no one really wanted to touch a song that was about decriminalising marijuana. But the people at the party thought that because the band was so controversial, if any one band was had the guts to take it on, it'd be Rose Tattoo, because we were just known for being not just
Brash.
unconventional, but like truly rebellious in the true sense of the word. So we weren't conforming, in any way, which is what kept us off mainstream radio, because we wouldn't conform musically. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, the song's lain around since, like I said, 77, 78.
Wow.
All these years. So this version that we're now releasing is with my new band, and it's to bring attention towards the need for us globally to address the genus cannabis as a beneficial plant, and stop this ridiculous, obstructional politics about discussing how to either decriminalise or legalise the use of cannabis medicinally. Because in the last 10 years, way back in the day, we knew about its recreational use. I was a prolific user myself. But we also knew about very, very quickly, I remember that marijuana party sending me some T-shirts made from fibre, hemp fibre. And of course, the old cliche that sailors have been making ropes out of hemp. Why did they pick hemp? Because it's incredibly strong fibre. So in the ensuing years, we've found out that Henry Ford wanted to press car parts, body parts out of hemp, because it was such a strong and pliable fibre. We now know that you can manufacture sustainable, eco-friendly, and sustainable building materials. Instead of chopping down trees, you can use hemp stalks. Because it's incredibly once it's compressed, it makes an incredibly strong component of like a fibre component. So you could replace paper, wood chip paper, with hemp. It not only makes wonderful paper, like A-grade paper, but you can reuse the paper 3, 4, 5 times before it becomes useless, and then you have to turn it into cardboard. So it arguably could replace plastic bags, and possibly plastic bottles. You can make it into so many different applications. But the one that I want to focus on, because in the last 10 years of my life, I've come across so many people that suffer needlessly immense pain, critical pain, like really chronic critical pain, whether they're battling cancer or seizures or any number of a half a dozen or even a dozen exotic diseases. By using the oil derived from cannabis, they're able to, in some cases, inhibit the growth of cancer. There's been enough data produced to suggest that, which is obviously why the big pharmaceutical companies don't want it. don't want us to talk about legalising or decriminalising the use of cannabis in any form. But having said that, I think there's a real need now, because we realise that medicinally, it's a gift. It's a gift from the creation, from Mother Nature, from the wonderful creational process that nature is. And we are now a more sophisticated, a more intelligent, hopefully, world. We're embracing all sorts of exotic mania, if you like. I mean, in other forms, social structure forms, etc., etc. I mean, if we're going to talk about, and we won't get bogged down with this, but if we're going to talk about the ideology, if you like, or the the reality that supposedly there's more than two genders, well, aren't we advanced enough in our thought process and the way that we look at our society to at least address the idea that cannabis oil is a gift from nature that can help millions of people with their suffering? I mean, why wouldn't we be doing that?
I can disagree with you on that. It's been legalized and it's opening up quite a bit here in America in the past year or two. I don't know how the law is there.
Some of the problems with the supposedly legalization of is it's the reality of availability.
Correct.
And the other thing too is that, which has come to light, particularly here, and I'm in touch, have been for years, with a couple of people, a couple of different organisations that are in support of this work. They are lobbying government, etc., etc. One of the things about the so-called legalisation is it's incredibly hard to pass the test, so to speak, to be able to have a prescription. But in many cases, the doses are so low, they're anything but, well, I wouldn't say useless, but my information is that they the doses need to be increased per. And the other thing too is that people like, there's an absurd situation here in Australia where people that to qualify have to go through drug counselling. I mean, okay, I mean, if that's a step that people, like a hurdle people need to get over,
it's not as necessary, because even in America, like literally a half hour, 45 minutes from me, my wife's cousins, they can grow, you're allowed to grow your own plants and then smoke recreational in their state. Our state's up for the vote now. Like, it's gotten to that point, and it should be like that for everybody. That
I think so. I don't want to get into the debate about the legalisation or the decriminalisation of recreational use, because that's another discussion.
Well, if it's that easy, if someone can get it that easy, then they're not going to have a problem getting it medicinal. Is my point. It would be that much easier for them.
Agreed, absolutely agreed. And one of the people that I'm being educated by is a wonderful woman here that does wonderful work, and she's been working on it most of her life. And she's a dietitian, and she's actually involved academically. So she's not just some dope smoking person who wants free, wants to be able to grow her own smoking dope. She's deeply embedded in the cause for the medicinal benefits of it. And she's the same as you. She thinks that people, to cut out the middleman, to cut out the profiteering, if you like, people should be allowed to see, like, from a kilo, you can derive a vial of oil. So it takes a lot of green and a process which can be practiced at home. The paraphernalia, if you like, that you need to reduce it to oil is very simplistic in its operation and can be done at home. So yes, I'm with you. I've been educated by this woman in recent months, last couple of months, to accept the idea that people should be allowed, particularly with a chronic illness.
Yep. Because I know people actually make the oil. They can make the oil themselves already. So it's
yeah. So it cuts out the government. I mean, the government won't like that because they can't tax it. But I mean, I think, like I say, the age we live in, I think very, very few subjects, apart from pedophilia or things like that, very few subjects are not up for debate. And I think this is a very crucial one. And I think people right across, like you say in America, in our state or in this state.
Yeah, each states are voting themselves free. It's like a
absolutely.
How we're broken down. I mean, it's different, and this is a worldwide issue. And I realize that we're talking on a global thing because some places, and people still go to jail to make getting caught with weed more of a fine, or it's not a crime anymore, or if you break probation with it. So it's slowly starting. The walls are coming down slowly in America, vote by vote. But just still, the rest of the world still needs it.
It's the same here in Australia. We are a federation of states in the same sort of similar situation from America to America, is that to bring about federation, the different states that existed had to retain control over certain parts of their future, their destiny, if you like. And I think appropriately at the time, it's worked against us by having like state by state police forces that that aren't good at communicating with one another. So in that sense, it works against us. We don't have a national police force. We don't have a national ambulance service. Each state, education's another one where it falls down because, you know, some states have got a completely different educational curriculum from other states. And so it doesn't always work to our advantage as a nation, but the states cling to that, you know, that residual power, if you like. But it was the only way that they would federate to produce the nation that became Australia, but largely to do with defence and larger issues. I mean, anyway, getting back to the realise, legalise. I just thought that the timing was right, which actually is part of the lyric. The time is right.
Yeah.
Can't give up the fight. And I think we have to keep regurgitating and agitating, and agitating is the correct word, to bring about change. And I think you have to do that with anything that's worthwhile. Is that okay? If they'll come up with, which I think are inane arguments. Oh, it's an entry drug. No, it's not. There's enough data to prove that it's not an entry drug to heroin abuse or cocaine abuse or whatever. But lots of people don't graduate from marijuana they use marijuana. That doesn't promote them to take up ice or heroin or whatever.
Right.
I think there's a wonderful little ditty on Face Farce that said the overdose deaths attributed to cannabis now are equal to that by deaths created by unicorns or with effect. And I thought, that is just gold.
Yeah, you could probably put like the amount of more people die per year of vending machines falling on them than drug overdoses on marijuana.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the absurd contradiction, of course, is that cigarettes and alcohol are legal, but something is like, you know, I mean, there are certain people in the press, of course, with vested interests, or their bosses have vested interests. And there are people in the press, and particularly on radio, and a lot of people on television. So the media, we all understand now, we've seen that all too plainly, how the media has been not only infiltrated, bought by people with a political agenda. So they've become propaganda machines. I mean, you can't rely on the mainstream print, mainstream television, and for an accurate informational outlet. I mean, they just aren't. They're not credible anymore. And I think more and more people, shows like ours, or well, I say ours, yours.
It's ours. I have no control of anything in my life.
Yeah. No, but
I surrendered.
This is true. This is why I love our chats.
Yeah,
because
this is what it is.
This is real people talking about real issues. Even though we we sprout everything from our mutual love of music.
But it's just a starting point for, if you like a certain type of thing, it's easy to grow for. Ours was music, and it's clearly we have a lot in common. So I know we have a short time span tonight, and people will see more of us and more of our jibber jabber.
I love jibber jabber.
That's my international tongue for everybody to hear our talk. But we have 5 minutes left, and I want to talk about the song. Talk about music. It is slamming. It is so funky. You were talking about the reggae thing. I'm thinking, all right, I'm thinking it's kind of funky. I'm thinking I need to put on some bell bottoms. I'm thinking it jams.
Well, what I said to Timmy Henwood, who's the guitar player, leader of the. See, I have adopted a band from Scotty Crawford, who's our manager, the Tats manager, my manager. He's built up over the years. He's an ex-record man. He's done PA. He's done marketing as part of his degree that he got at uni. Blah blah blah. So he's a very young guy. He's so into Australian music history, and so he loves the bands that basically he sees help build the. So he's built up the stable of some terrifically talented bands, but he also, as he should, has his eye on new products and new bands. So he looks for young keen. So he adopted or does manage a band called Palace of the King, and they're a band within their own right. They've brought out, I think, 3 or 4 really cool albums. And I might have mentioned them before, but they've got a very 70s influence to them, which is why when Scotty said to me, he said, you love Palace of the King, because they used to do lots of opening spots for the Tats, and will again.
Yep.
It's all a bit incestuous.
Yeah.
It's all a bit incestuous. But anyway, we're allowed to do that. But, so I adopted them. I had a couple of, when we were doing sound checks, when we were out on the road with the Tats and Palace of the King, I'd go to their sound check and we'd jam on sort of Rod Stewart stuff and some old R&B, when the night has come, that kind of stuff. The Tamla Motown, the real R&B. And they know all that stuff. And it's their style.
You absorbed them under your bird wing?
Sort of. I just said, like Scotty said to me, they're a ready-made band. They already, they love the Spencer Davis thing. They love the Cream. They love, Blind Faith. They love all the stuff that the Faces. They're obsessed with the Faces, as I am. And so that's why that arrangement.
It sounds really good. I like the keyboard in it, the organ sound. That's my favorite part. It just jumps out. Is this so? The only last question is on this. So I'm going to post all people are going to see the statement and all the what Cat put together to go along with this. I'll put it out in the release, and also the statement. Are you guys going to be doing more singles too, or another album?
We've the reason it is so funky is because I said to Tim, I said, give it your own treatment. He said, I so much like the soul of the first jam track. So he did take that. I'll dig out a copy of the original if you're interested one day and send it to you. But yes, what we've done with the band, we've gone back, and the two Mushroom albums, I call them, because I did them for Mushroom label, Beats from a Single Drum, which was the first one, which suddenly came off.
I thought you were going to say you did it while you're on mushrooms, and I was like, oh, that.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
No. I stopped taking mushrooms by then. But the other, I didn't mind LSD, but mushrooms really knocked me around. I mean, I had a couple of amazing experiences with peyote, real peyote, powdered peyote.
Yeah.
But not so much mushrooms. The ones here in Australia are pretty aggressive, and
everything in Australia is aggressive. You had that talk. We're going to go deeper on this.
Anyway, so
awesome.
to answer your question, we took the best tracks off the 2 albums, which is Beats from a Single Drum and Blood from Stone. And we've re-recorded with this band with this band's influence. So they sound fresh, like the track does, like Realize. It totally does. And as soon as that album's finished, I'll send you a copy. But we've taken the best.
So good. Your vocals are so strong. I can't believe how strong they sound. I mean, I can. It's just so amazing.
Technology.
Come on, stop. Stop. You know exactly. Your voice is still strong.
What do they call that thing? Auto-tune.
Auto-tune. That is not auto-tune. Auto-tune makes you sound like a robot.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's kind of like, But yeah, thank you. I'm glad you loved the track, mate. It was important to me to take back to the boys that particularly you like the track.
Yeah, tell them it's awesome. So everyone take away what we're talking about now. Anytime you want, you come back. Angry's going to come back, and we got a bunch of stuff. We have some unreleased shows we have to release and finish up on. And we have some other topics we're going to talk about. And I want to talk some more about this too on our other shows. We'll keep the topic going.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's an important enough. It is an important enough issue. Yes. That it is global, because there are people who suffer. I mean, I read one case history story of a family who their child, around about 18 months, less than 2 years old, all of a sudden started having seizures. Now, we can argue, I mean, the parents said, well, she'd just been vaccinated. So they are of the opinion that it was a reaction from the vaccination. Having said that, that's another argument altogether, or another debate, another day. Not for me. I'm not qualified to talk on that. But she started having these violent seizures, and they got more and more commonplace. So she was having, on an average, one every hour to an hour and a bit, and quite violent seizures, where they had to tape her hands up in mittens, and she was in total distress and obviously in a lot of pain. And the father actually did spend some time in jail and had to go through drug counselling, and does have to, but he will not give up. And he obtained oil on the black market, and the seizures went down to from one every hour to hour and a half, let's say, to maybe 2 or 3 a day. So as a father, like any father would, he said, the law's an ass, or as you Americans say, an ass. But the law's an ass, we say here.
Your American accent.
The well-being of my child is much more important to me than anything. Any father would say that.
I agree. I would totally do that in a minute. I wouldn't even think about it.
I know. I'm talking to the converted. We're
on the same page. We are.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Okay. So
can't thank you enough yet again for your time.
We could talk for hours, and you know that we've got
well,
rules.
we will. Well,
we will. All right. So I want to thank you for being on the show, man. And this has been good. Brother.